So on behalf of all the authors, I'm presenting this Agriculture Group Participation, Association with Modern Farming Practices and Dietary Diversity. So these are my presentation outlines. I start with a general motivation, and then we move on to aims of the study, methods, results, and conclusion. So let me start with a very general motivation to do this paper or to do this analysis. As we all know, 2/3 of the population in Nepal relies on agriculture for their livelihood. They are mostly subsistence farmers, smallholders. We all know that. And the other fact is that one of the way to reach out to these smallholder farmers is to organize them in a group and support them. Any donors or government, it's an easy way to organize them in a group and extend support, whatever support, information dissemination or any technological support, anything. So with this thing in the back of our mind, we said that, well, what's the benefit of having membership into a farmers group? Let's look at that. So we had this data from our nutrition surveillance data, and we utilized that data. I'll come to that. So first of all, what's the aim of this study? We wanted to look at what is the association of having membership into the group to the adoption of improved agriculture practices. That was our first research question. And next, having membership, does it also improve your production diversity, dietary diversity for women and children? So with this two aims, let's discuss something on our methods. So we used data from Poshan survey. I think most of us know Poshan, Policy and Science of Health, Agriculture and Nutrition. This is a longitudinal survey that started in 2013 for the first time, and it continued until 2016. We have altogether 4 rounds of data, but there was, in 2015, we could not follow all the households, so we exclude that from our analysis. And sampling, this was multi-stage sampling method. We first selected 7 VDCs from each agroecological zone, 7 from mountains, 7 from hills, and 7 from Tarai. And then we selected 3 wards proportion to the population per VDC, and whatever eligible households we found in that ward, we interviewed them or included in our study. And what is the eligibility criteria? Our eligibility criteria was that any households having children less than 60 months, and also the household having newlyweds. So that was our eligibility criteria. I continue with methods. As I said, we are interested in looking at the membership into the agriculture groups. The first definition for that is what is agriculture group participation. So for us, agriculture group participation is defined as a household having membership in farmer groups, schools or marketing groups, or having received any information about farming from extension workers in their households. So this is our standard definition of agriculture group participation for our analysis. And we had to restrict our samples as well. We could not include all the households that were in our survey. So we ended up having only those households that produced agriculture products in the past 1 year. And the other restriction we had was a balance panel. Since we're looking at the sort of association over time, we wanted to have only those households that were in our first round of survey that were also ended up being interviewed in the last round, that was in 2016. So that's a kind of balance panel. And finally, our estimation method, we did a conventional DID approach, having an interaction terms in our regression. I'll come to that later. So this is our Poshan site, our study sites, all those stars in blue, red, and black, 7 each in each agriculture zone. Just wanted to make sure that we have a nationally representative samples. of households having kids less than 60 months. Now, let's move towards results. Before that, I'd like to talk something about the pathways, program impact pathways. We choose to do this analysis from a data set that is nationally representative, but this has some limitations for our analysis. We do not have a clearly defined program impact pathways, nor is this a trial for any particular modern agriculture practices. So this is the limitation, and we should keep that in mind when we interpret our results. So when we did a descriptive analysis, we found that households having membership into the farmer groups are relatively better off in terms of wealth, years of schooling, and average landholding. So this might be important when we interpret our results from regression. So wanted to have this at the beginning. Next, participation in agriculture group was unexpectedly associated with a lower total count of improved practices in our model. So let me explain what we did. We asked to the households, we gave them 21 different improved practices, whether you have this or not, this or not, this or not. And what we did is, first we tried to find out an association with the number of improved practices that a household adopted in the past 1 year. That is out of 21. And we did not see any association on that, or in fact, negative association. As you can see, the first row highlighted in red, which is statistically significant as well. And later what we did, we grouped all these 21 practices into 4 different broader groups. First being production-related, which again has a negative association and is statistically significant. And the next one is storage-related, which again has a negative association and is statistically significant. Marketing-related is not significant, though negative. The only positive association we saw was in case of livestock-related, but it's not statistically significant. So in this slide, nothing is significant or nothing is associated with the group membership. But having said this, what we did is we ran a separate regression for each improved practices method, and we saw some association, positive association as well as negative association. And I have this in the 2 different cells here. So we saw increased production in case of composting, improved drying methods, process to pack, store, and process food, and livestock vaccination. And decreased association in case of storage equipment, integrated pest management, using improved seeds, and creation of raised beds. Now, our next objective was to look at the association with the number of products produced by these households. Here we have some interesting findings. So what we did, we grouped as a conventional method to group the production into 7 different groups: starchy, staples, legumes, vitamin A rich, all those things. So what we saw here is, the milk production. If you could see that milk, both those having membership and non-membership, they both started at the same point. But those having membership, they increased sharply in 2016, but remained somehow flat for those not having membership. And same is true in case of eggs. They kind of started at the same point, but those having membership has a steeper increase compared to those not having membership. So this result is a marginal effect from regression. So what we did is we just look at the whether household, our outcome was whether household has produced any food within this food group or not. The next is our impact or the association in the child dietary diversity score, and there's no association at all. Nothing got improved in case of child dietary diversity. And This table is for women's dietary diversity score, and we do see some positive results here. Maternal consumption of meat got improved, which is positive and statistically significant, and same is true in case of dark green leafy vegetables. So I'd like to summarize my results. Farmer group participation is associated with adoption of specific modern agriculture practices, greater dietary diversity of food production, and more frequent maternal consumption of DG, LV, and meat. So this is actually not conclusion. This is just a summary of our conclusion. And after we did this analysis and got the results, we're struggling with the interpretation. So we thought, let's stick to the wider range of audience and get some comments or feedbacks that would help us interpret this result better. So I end here and hope for a positive feedback and support for interpretation of these results. Thank you very much for your participation.